that value of sort of keeping track, in a sense, of where we're going, from this to this to this, in those little steps that we think about in focusing, of deepening. So we're paying attention to that. So, for example, in our class so far, we were talking about, oh, we're halfway done, and I'd love you to get a taste for what my version of the integration of focusing into group work, whatever kind of groups. And then we brought in this part of the focusing attitude that is about the embracing of difference and of everything, and curiosity. And Cassell talked about the aboutism in Rogers, and then we talked about, in focusing, the deep listening, and then now we're talking about the sort of keeping track that that we're doing now, and the little steps of deepening. And if we think about those sort of basic, and you may have a different way of parsing them, but those basic elements of focusing and bringing them to any kind of group process, the group process is going to change fundamentally. If you brought that to we're having meetings about saving our supermarket in the in our neighborhood that NYU wants to take over. So if I were to bring those principles to that kind of a neighborhood meeting, it would change the meeting. If not only if I'm the facilitator, but even as a member, when you change the dance, you change the dynamic. I've become very excited about something that I want to share with you. It came to me in watching these videos of Carl Rogers encounter groups that Carl Rogers is the father of FOT, and Gene really modeled his way of doing therapy after Carl, and elaborated it and deepened it and philosophicalized it, but still kept to that same basic rhythm. And then Carl Rogers went on this whole other journey of developing encounter groups, and he worked with like 2,000 people at a time. I remember his talking about, I was in a group with Carl Rogers, an encounter group for a short time. I mean, it wasn't a long encounter group, but his talking about how we, and I always love this, how we are having a very hard time with apartheid in South Africa. He included himself in the whole issue, not those people in South Africa are having a hard time, but this is us. And he brought that empathic understanding into a global sphere, and experimented with groups, with not only the frame of therapy, but what happens when we go beyond the frame of the dyad, the partnership, to the group. And Gene did not follow there at all. I think most of you have seen his video that's on YouTube about hating groups. The only kind of group he liked was the group where there was room for people to ask, well, what do you really mean by that? Right? So I'm excited about how we can pick up the strand that Jean left there back in the 70s, and we can contemporize it. And what will that look like?